Good afternoon and welcome to your Sunday concert series with me, Karen. Today we will be hearing a piece by Franz Listz. Listz was born in 1811 in the village of Dobrien in the Kingdom of Hungary. As a composer, pianist, teacher, conductor, and author, Listz was one of the foremost proponents of the Romantic tradition in Western art music and exerted a formative influence on the course of musical expression in the 19th century and beyond. His imaginative approach to musical form, harmony, and structure anticipated and inspired subsequent composers to explore the paths that he established. As the foremost piano virtuoso at the time, he introduced technical innovations that greatly expanded the expressive range of that instrument. Liszt's father played the piano, violin, cello, and guitar. He had been in the service of Prince Nicholas II and knew pianists Haydn, Hummel, and Beethoven personally. At age 6, Franz began listening attentively to his father's piano playing. His father began teaching him the piano at age 7, and Franz began composing in an elementary manner when he was 8. He appeared in concerts at Sepperon and Pressburg in October and November of 1820 at the age of 9. After the concerts, a group of wealthy sponsors offered to finance Franz's musical education in Vienna. In Vienna, Listz received piano lessons from Karl Czerny, who in his youth had been a student of Beethoven and Hummel. He also received lessons in composition from Antonio Salieri, who was then the music director of the Viennese court. Liszt's public debut in Vienna on December 1, 1822 was a great success. He was greeted in Austria and Hungary aristocratic circles and also met Beethoven and Schubert. After his father's death in 1827, Listz moved to Paris for the next 5 years. He was to live with his mother in a small apartment. He gave up touring. To earn money, Listz gave lessons in piano playing and composition, often from early morning until late at night. His students were scattered across the city, and he often had to cover long distances. During this period, Listz read widely to overcome his lack of a general education, and he soon came in contact with many of the leading authors and artists of his day, including Victor Hugo. He composed practically nothing in these years. After attending a charity concert in April of 1832 for the victims of the Parisian cholera epidemic, organized by Niccolò Paganini, Listz became determined to become as great a virtuoso on the piano as Paganini was on the violin. Paris in the 1830s had become the nexus for pianistic activities, with dozens of pianists dedicated to the perfection of the keyboard. Listz gained renown in Europe during the early 19th century for his prodigious virtuoso skill as a pianist. He was a friend, musical promoter, and benefactor to many composers of his time, including Frédéric Chopin and Edvard Grieg. Although his larger-than-life personality and scandalous, amorous adventures seemed at odds with his decision late in life to seek the holy orders, his embrace of the full spectrum of life produced a creative legacy at unprecedented richness and breadth of perspective, and one of immeasurable impact upon the music of his era. During his virtuoso heyday, Listz was described by the writer Hans Christian Andersen as a slim young man with dark hair hung around his pale face. He was seen as handsome by many, with the German poet Heinrich Heine writing concerning his showmanship during concerts, how powerful, how shattering was his mere physical presence. Among Liszt's musical contributions were the symphonic poem, developing a thematic transformation as part of his experiments in musical form, and radical innovations in harmony. Adding to his reputation was the fact that Listz gave away much of his proceeds to charity and humanitarian causes in his whole life. In fact, Listz had made so much money by his mid-40s that virtually all his performing fees after 1857 went to charity. While his work for the Beethoven Monument and the Hungarian National Musical School is well known, he also gave generously to the building fund of Cologne Cathedral. There were also private donations to hospitals, schools, and charitable organizations. Inspired perhaps by his association with the Vatican, Listz, at the age of 54, entered the lower orders of the church and undertook serious theological study in preparation to become a member of the clergy. Although he was never ordained a priest, Listz nonetheless found spiritual solace in the church's teachings, a solace that manifested itself musically in the composition of two of his large-scale religious choral works. Upon his investiture as abbot in 1865, he took to wearing the habit of the Franciscan order for the rest of his life. Listz was sometimes mocked in the press for facial expressions and gestures at the piano. Also noted were the extravagant liberties that he took with the text of other scores. Listz was a prolific composer. He is best known for his piano music, but he also wrote for orchestra and for other ensembles, virtually always including keyboard. His piano works were often marked by their difficulty. Some of his works are programmatic, based on extra musical inspiration, such as poetry or art. Listz is credited with the creation of the symphonic poem. Many musicians consider Listz to be the greatest pianist who ever lived. The critic Peter G. Davis has opined, perhaps Listz was not the most transcendent virtuoso who ever lived, but his audience thought he was. According to pianist Carl Gerstein, he was possibly the greatest pianist that has ever lived. Today I will be playing Liebesträume. Liebesträume, which is German for Dreams of Love, is a set of 3 solo piano works by Listz published in 1850. Originally, the 3 Liebesträume were conceived as poetry set to music by the poets Ludwig Uhland and Fernando Felgrath. The 2 poems by Uhland and the one by Felgrath depict 3 different forms of love. The same melody is used throughout the piece, some varied, especially near the middle of the work, where the climax is reached. In that section, the melody is played by a series of octaves followed by arpeggios. Liebesträume number 3 in A-flat is the last of the 3 that Listz wrote and the most popular. Let's hear Liebesträume. Enjoy.